Israeli forces continue to target the Gaza Strip with air attacks for a second day. 2 Palestinian men have been killed in Khan Yunis from Israeli raids, according to local media and health ministry. The attack on Gaza, which left a senior Islamic Jihad leader dead, may be a message to Iran, which is currently in talks with the United States about its nuclear program, according to observers. Because of PIJ's link to Iran, one of Israel's goals is launching this attack, and I cannot separate this from the nuclear negotiations in Vienna that Israel is opposing strongly, while the US and Iran might be reaching an agreement on the latter's nuclear project, said Ibrahim Freihat of the Doha Institute. Here is Israel sending a message: I'm against this and targeting one of Iran's proxies in the region, he said, adding that this fits with Israel's overall strategy against Iran, which has been built on targeting or attacking Tehran's targets in the region. We have seen dozens of these attacks against Iranian targets in Syria, in Iraq, and it could be this time in Palestine, where Israel believes that Islamic Jihad is a close ally of Iran and that the time has come to hit one of Iran's allies in the region, Freihat said. Fears are growing that tensions in Gaza, which Israel pounded for the second day, could reverberate in East Jerusalem and the rest of the West Bank. Friction between Israel and Palestinians over unauthorized prayers by Jewish extremists in the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound is rising before Sunday, when Jews mark Tisha B'Av, an annual fasting day that commemorates the anniversary of a number of disasters in Jewish history. On Friday, Hamas, the group that governs the Gaza Strip, urged Palestinians to defend the mosque on Sunday, with all possible means. The mosque's preacher, Sheikh Ekrim Sabri, called on faithful to attend prayers and foil radical Jews' plan to storm the site, Reuters reported.
It is election season in Kenya, and even beyond the 22.1 million registered voters going to the polls on August 9, the biggest catchphrase of the campaign has been the deep state. Over the last couple of years, the phrase has emerged to convey the notion of a powerful shadowy cabal, not officially elected to government but, nonetheless, contorting the wishes of the people during elections and afterwards in the governance of the country.
Rishi Sunak sets out radical proposal. The British PM candidate doesn't rule out leaving the European Convention on Human Rights in order to tackle illegal migration. PM hopeful Rishi Sunak hasn't ruled out withdrawing the UK from the European Convention on Human Rights (ECHR) in order to tackle illegal migration, arguing that no option should be off the table. In an interview with the TV channel GB News aired on Saturday, Sunak said that he is vexed by the fact that thousands of people are coming illegally to this country in small boats across the English Channel. He stressed that no one should have any doubts that if he becomes Prime Minister, he will grip this situation. Responding to a question about whether he was prepared to leave the ECHR to achieve his goal, he said that if other measures turn out not to be effective enough, no option should be off the table because we must have control over our borders. Any sovereign country must be able to do that, he said. Stressing that regaining control over migration was one of the reasons for his support of Brexit, he listed some of the measures he wants to introduce to address the problem. We've got to change the definition of asylum, he said. He explained that the UK currently uses the ECHR's definition, which, in his opinion, is too broad and exploited by the lefty lawyers for lots of spurious reasons. So, I think we should move to a different definition, another international standard that the Australians and others use, which is much tighter and narrower, Sunak, himself the son of immigrants, said. He also suggested that the UK needs to be tougher with its foreign policy and not hesitate to ask other countries to take back their failed asylum seekers. The former Chancellor also stressed that, in accordance with his radical plan, he is prepared to do whatever it takes to make the policy of sending illegal migrants to Rwanda work. On this matter, Sunak is in agreement with his competitor for the Tory leadership position, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, who also supports the policy, despite the legal setbacks and criticism. Sunak has made containing illegal migration one of the key points of his leadership campaign. He had previously claimed that he would be able to build a more constructive relationship with French President Emmanuel Macron than outgoing Prime Minister Boris Johnson had done, and that this would also help Britain tackle the issue. Meanwhile, as Daily Mail reported on Saturday, over the last 7 years the UK government has spent almost £500 million on preventing migrants from embarking on the dangerous trip across the Channel. Nevertheless, the number of illegal crossings has continued skyrocketing. This past week alone 1,372 illegal migrants reached UK shores, putting the total for this year now over 17,000.
Germans should cut energy consumption by at least 20% to avoid gas shortages this coming winter. Klaus Müller, the head of Germany's federal regulator for gas and power networks, has told Welt am Sonntag newspaper. Consumers have to save at least 20% so much more than before. There is already a risk of a gas shortage in December, or we will have low storage levels at the end of the coming heating period, the Federal Network Agency chief stated in an interview published on Saturday. Müller said Germany should also cut its gas exports to neighboring countries by 20%, and import 10 to 15 gigawatt-hours of gas to avoid shortages. If we don't save a lot and don't get any additional gas, we'll have a problem, Müller said. His statements come as Russian energy exporter Gazprom has cut gas flows to Germany through the Nord Stream pipeline to 20%, citing technical issues and a turbine that in recent weeks the company has been unable to receive back from Canada after repairs due to Ukraine-related sanctions. Müller earlier stated that Russia could use the issue with the turbine as an opportunity to cut the gas supply to Germany completely, which makes it crucial for the country to save as much gas as possible. Germany last month raised its gas storage targets for the coming fall to 75% by September 1, 85% by October 1 and 95% by November 1. Berlin also introduced energy-saving measures, which prioritize private households in the event of a gas supply shortage. However, Müller said this doesn't mean that households are free to use excessive heating. They are certainly not protected by the regulation, if they think they have a right to heat their apartment to excessive temperatures in this emergency situation. In order to secure jobs, I think austerity measures for private households are legitimate, Müller stated. The official dismissed the effectiveness of fracking, which some regional politicians have proposed as a way to prevent gas shortages. The only measure that would help would be to put gas in the storage tanks, in the industrial plants or in the private heating systems over the next 24 months. Fracking will not do that in Germany, he stated. He did not, however, rule out that the country will have to continue using nuclear power plants for energy generation over the coming months.
The foreign minister made the remarks in a phone conversation with Secretary General of the Palestinian Movement of Islamic Jihad Ziad al-Naqala, where he strongly condemned a Friday aggression of the Zionist regime on Gaza Strip. By continuing to create crisis, Tel Aviv is trying to cover up the multi-layered crises in the occupied territories, Amr Abdollahian said. The Palestinian side, for his part, appreciated the support of the Iranian government and people for the Palestinian cause. Today, the Zionist regime is in its weakest state, and the resistance fighters protect the residents of Gaza and Palestine and the freedom of the Holy Quds with dignity and strength, al-Naqala said.
Bahari Khani, leading the Iranian nuclear negotiations delegation, met and conferred with the EU JCPOA coordinator Enrique Mora on Saturday night. Mora had later tonight rejected as false news the Bloomberg on 72-hour deadline for the negotiations, and expressed optimism about the negotiations' end. The Iranian negotiations delegation led by Ali Bahari arrived in Austrian capital city, Vienna, for talks to lift the sanctions. An Iranian diplomat told IRNA in Vienna that sustainability of an agreement depends on its balanced nature, uncertainty versus certainty. The NPT claims, which were created to mount political pressure, have continued, and are politically motivated. He added that they should not be used as an excuse to find faults against Iran endlessly. Focusing on the atmosphere of the negotiations in Vienna, he said that the hours are sensitive in Vienna, and Iran's certainty should be gained as soon as possible.
A bomb exploded in a busy shopping street in Afghanistan's capital Kabul on Saturday and at least 22 people were injured, hospital officials and witnesses said. The blast occurred in the western district of the city where members of the minority community regularly meet. Video footage posted online showed ambulances rushing to the scene, which is also near bus stations. A spokesman for the Taliban Interior Ministry said an investigation team was at the blast site to help the wounded and assess casualties. No group immediately claimed responsibility for the attack, which came ahead of Ashura, a commemoration of the martyrdom of Hussein, a grandson of the Prophet Muhammad PBUH, which is marked mainly by the minority group. On Friday, at least 8 people were killed and 18 injured in a blast in Kabul carried out by Daesh. Daesh does not control any territory in Afghanistan but does have deadly sleeper cells that have been targeting religious minorities in the country as well as Taliban patrols. Taliban authorities, who took over Afghanistan in August last year after a 2-decade insurgency, have said they would provide more protection for minority mosques and other facilities. Syed Kazem Hojat, a religious scholar in Kabul, said the Taliban government had ramped up security ahead of Ashura but should improve vigilance for any threats. No up-to-date census data exists, but estimates put the size of Afghanistan's minority community at between 10–20% of the 39 million population, including Persian-speaking Tajiks and Pashtuns as well as Hazaras.
Be aware with the world. 8 p.m. Broadcast Service.